With that, I'm going to introduce our next set of panelists. And our next panel discussion is going to be about bridging the UK power ecosystem. And for that, we're going to have Mr. Dominic Law as our moderator. He is the Chief Commercial Officer at STZA. And I'm going to allow him to introduce STZA himself a little bit more, but as the CCO, Mr. Iqbal will be responsible for international and domestic business development, global partnerships, marketing activities, and delivery. He will facilitate the business pipeline that funnels into his own development and his own enterprises to create established technology-driven ecosystem within the STZA across Pakistan. Mr. Iqbal brings a unique blend of expertise from global technology industry, including PwC, Salesforce, and EY, and he's got great academic prowess, government policy making, and innovation experience. Aside from that, please get have a seat. Aside from that on the panel, we've got Mr. Shahid Azim, who's the Managing Director at Folio 3. He's an award-winning IT entrepreneur and the personal representative of Her Majesty the Queen for Surrey. And he runs a number of IT businesses and operates a fully regulated digital bank. If you please step forward as well. Thank you. And we've got Mr. Chris, sorry, is it Secretary General at the International Chamber of Commerce UK and regular voice for business and international media. He's also co-chair and legal reform advisory board at the ICC Digital Standards Initiative, the director and the secretariat for UK All-Party Parliamentary Group on trade and export, promotion and ICC representative to the Commonwealth. There's a lot of titles involved. He's a member for he's the member for ICC World Council as well, and the International Advisory Board for Digital Trade Network and Queen Mary University Institute of Transnational Commercial Law. Lastly, we've got Mr. Rashid Iqbal, who's the CEO and leading part of Pakistan and British Business Council, and he looks after business on a day-to-day basis, bringing together all the stakeholders. He's a substantial international business and government connections. He's also significant experience in organizing official trade missions and events that relate to improving government relations. If you can please come as
well. It's fascinating to see how these linkages are starting to be formed. You heard pretty much an information overload from Pakistan. If I was to put up my own professor hat, I'd start quizzing everybody, but I think we'll spare that for a later time as well. But wonderful to have you all in here as well, Shaita, Chris, and Rashida as well. I think we're at a very interesting crossroads. You all heard, clearly the government's new direction. There's a massive realization that there are a few boats we missed. But the good thing is that there are many boats in tech that still has no journeys planned even, if we think about that. So a lot can be done. STZA, as an initiative, is starting to break its legs. We're 4 months in from the act, and we're here to learn. We're here to understand how others did it. We don't believe to be champions in anything. We believe to be students of the cause, and we want to understand, not only global practices around this, but also, in your opinions, low-hanging fruits as well. And this is going to be a collective exercise. To the point of STZA, one of the major strategies we're starting to pitch is that tech is no longer a vertical; it's a horizontal now. And Shafiq Saab, you may believe that all of that speak was not tech, just like every person around us is a salesman or a saleswoman, everybody's in tech. You just don't know it yet. And it's how we bring the enabling environment that will make that happen. So let's start with that. We'll start with you, sir. We won't do more of a information overload this time. We want to learn from you as you sit through and look at how your experience in the British side of the house, in terms of linkages that have been created, in terms of what you see, in terms of positiveness in the policy that's coming around. So my first question to all three of you is, what do you think we can achieve together with this?
Okay, so if I may just allow me to just give my own personal experience, just a few minutes. So I've lived all my life in the UK, particularly in Surrey. I've been involved in IT for the last 40 years, when the size of a USB stick was the size of a washing machine. So I've been in tech all my life. I've set up a number of IT businesses. I have a huge passion for Pakistan, and I've visited a number of sort of events here and other shows. And I'm going to be quite blunt, okay? Because what I see here, we're trying to, we're preaching to the people we already got converted here. I see 2 or 3, excuse the language, white people here. The message you want to get across is not to us. You want to talk about what you're trying to deliver to the mainstream there, what the image of Pakistan is, what you're talking about, or what we can deliver there. I already have my own experience of Pakistan, and I have actually now. So I'm MD of a company called Folio 3. We headquartered in Silicon Valley. We ran for two decades. We employ just shy of 1,000 people. And you mentioned about GDPR, and you talk about sort of accreditations. We are a gold partner with Microsoft. This year we're sort of NetSuite Oracle Partner of the Year, and we're machine learning, artificial intelligence. All I do, to be honest, I just shake hands. I've got the people behind in Pakistan who are, everything I've said, are absolutely amazing, amazing people. Our problem is we don't have a platform to promote those brands, and that's my biggest challenge. So we have to go out and really get the right platform to promote the skill sets that we have. We've got to build the capacity for our people out there. It's not just about the knowledge, it's about the culture, it's about how you deal with people. It's simple things like I used to see in Pakistan is that they make a fantastic furniture, but they're just missing the last 10% of it, just makes it a completely unique thing. So it's all about capacity building, it's all about knowledge transfer, it's all about relationship building, and the talent's there. The talent is amazing. I've seen in our own team. So I think there's that link. The gentleman talked earlier on about university. So I sit on the board of Surrey University and Royal Holloway, and Royal Holloway is the lead in cyber security, the lead in C-Line. Surrey University is a lead on 5G innovation. And what we should be doing is doing that knowledge transfer between these countries and build the capacity. And I think if you just talk about what Ahmad was saying, so Malcolm Parry is a good friend of mine, and I was part of that scheme 12 years ago. And you mentioned missing a boat 12 years ago. I launched the digital transformation, Pakistan's digital powerhouse at Chelsea post-Brexit in 2017. Nothing happened. We can't keep making excuses we keep missing the boat. We just will get off our backside and do something.
Straight from the heart, and it's definitely needed. I think we need more than getting off from our backside. I think there's a kick involved there as well that's going to help a lot of things as well. Chris, let's start with you.
Well, first of all, it's a real privilege and a pleasure to be here, Barris. Thank you for getting me involved. I'm just going to give you a sort of macro view, because I think there's an amazing opportunity in front of us that really not will just change the environment in which we're trading, but also will help change the environment in which everybody's trading worldwide. I've just come from Europe this morning, having the same conversation. I came from Singapore last week, having the same conversation. And I really ought to, think that Pakistan and the UK have a unique opportunity to lead. And I think that's important. I'll just take you back to 2000, WTO Ministerial 11, that was, which was in 2017, I think. What many people don't know is that Pakistan and Costa Rica played a critical role in brokering the dialogue between the OECD countries and the emerging economies to get 86 countries around the table to start negotiating a modern e-commerce agreement. That's going on in Geneva. Pakistan was co-chairing that group with Costa Rica, and it was an absolute pleasure to work with the ambassador at the time in Geneva. I'm absolutely sure that if that group had not existed, we wouldn't be having this conversation in Geneva. And just to put that in context, we're still operating on the 1994 rule book for e-commerce. And when I say e-commerce in the WTO context, that's digital trade, that's all of trade. It's not e-commerce platforms, it's everything. That's the same year that Google was launched out of a bedroom. So it just goes to show you the gap in governance and conditions compared with the reality of what we're actually doing. And I think tech entrepreneurs are obviously the front face of that. So I'm coming at this from a trade perspective. Anyone who's dealing with trade transactions and trade activity will know what the pain points are. There are 4 billion paper documents floating around the trade system at any given time. Trade transactions can take up to 2 to 3 months to complete. They can cost you up to £80,000 per trade transaction. It's just enormously bureaucratic. There's no reason why that should be the case. It's simply because we are operating on laws that go back to the 1800s. In our case, as in both of us, we're operating on the 1882 Bills of Exchange Act, can you believe? It's extraordinary. So there's a real opportunity to modernise our laws. We have a call to action with the G7 and the International Chamber of Commerce for all governments to have a good look at their legal systems, modernise their legal systems, and align those legal systems to what's called the UNCITRAL Modern Law and Electronic Transferable Records. It's a bit of a horrible name, but actually that's the global framework to allow documents to cross over borders in digital form. It's really, really important. We cannot drive technology solutions at scale because of those legal barriers getting in the way of, actually in this case, commercial trade documents, bills of exchange, bills of lading. There are 8 of those documents, and those being held in paper form is holding up the digitalization of the whole trading ecosystem. In the customs space, they're making great progress in Pakistan and the UK, but in this area, there's only 7 countries who've done it. So I think there's a real opportunity here. We share the same laws. The UK, through the APPG, will be bringing through Parliament this year the Electronic Trade Documents Bill. The groundwork is being done. I think it's a wonderful opportunity for Pakistan to pick that up at the other end. And if I can point to one trade agreement at the moment that is now the global gold standard, it's the UK-Singapore agreement launched on Friday last week. That has lifted the whole trade, in terms of digital trade, precedent to a completely different level. Why aren't we doing that with Pakistan is the question. We could be doing it with Pakistan. It costs the government absolutely nothing to really reform laws. We can bring the expertise from industry, but it will deliver an enormous benefit. And let me just explain the prize that we're talking about here. We did the business case for the G7. By digitalizing trade documents, we can unlock 9 trillion in trade growth, 6 trillion in SME exports. We can cut trade transaction costs by 80%. We can cut compliance burden times across borders from 25 days to 1 day. And we can deliver half the trade finance gap. That's 850 billion worldwide by simply digitalizing those documents. Watch out for the Commonwealth business case, because that's the next one coming in the next few weeks, and it's going to tell you exactly the same. It will blow the Commonwealth trade target by simply undertaking this exercise, and it will cost the Pakistan government nothing. The Pakistan government has the expertise, it has the leadership to do this, but Pakistan industry need to speak up to the government and put the pressure on, let's get the job done, because the groundwork is being done, we can accelerate that really quickly, and not only can you create a better and more successful environment for Pakistan industry, and not just tech industry, but all the sectors that were listed up on the screen earlier on. Everybody wins from this. There's no downsides whatsoever. And in the context of COVID, we're trying to drive that economic recovery. This for me is a complete no-brainer. It's the biggest transformation exercise in world trade. It dwarfs all trade agreements. Everything, even at the WTO, dwarfs all of that. And it's really not that difficult an exercise. But we do need to kind of get onto that job. So in terms of doing stuff, we can do that. Let's get on and do it. Because I think actually that That relationship between Pakistan and the UK is absolutely critical, not just for our relationships, but a whole bunch of other countries who will follow that relationship. We know that because we know that from the WTO. That if Pakistan takes the lead, why? Because of the population size, the type and nature of the economy. If Pakistan say yes, others follow. It's one of those economies. That's the kind of place you have in the world. It's really, really important. So all I would say is, as a call to action, let's do it, and do it as fast as we possibly can. Let's make the most of the opportunity with this new electronic trade documents bill. We've got the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting coming up this year. That's a wonderful opportunity to make some announcements around this stuff. We've got the ministerial conference coming up in the WTO in June as well. Another wonderful opportunity to show some leadership. The government here, it's limitless ambition. There's no one saying no to anything. Somebody just needs to knock on the door and say, let's get this done. And then we've got the agreement with Singapore to go with. We're now pushing trade corridors through every single FTA discussion now coming out of the UK. Singapore's doing the same. Why aren't we doing that with Pakistan? Fantastic, we should be. Because the more we do it, the more digital highways we create, and the more the world trading system improves. So that's the opportunity. And all I would say is, there's nothing stopping us other than the fact that we're not speaking up enough.
Certainly a good start to speak up. It was very well done. I know you've had a cause for Pakistan and UK business together. To Chris's point, our linkages, what Baroness also talked about earlier, our social fabric that links us together, the legal system that links us together. How have you seen this evolve over the last, let's time box it to a decade? And what do you think are the opportunities that, now that you've heard the new way of thinking in terms of tech enablement and so forth, where do you see this going?
First of all, I'm glad to be given the opportunity to speak. Baroness Mubarak, obviously, she actually was the former chairman of the Pakistani Business Council, and so I'm really delighted, and it's a distinguished guest, and obviously the High Commissioner has actually been very supportive towards the course of our work. Basically, first of all, I need to explain to you what PBBC is about, and that may answer your question. PBBC was established by the heads of two government, and that was back in 2002. And the prime mandate that we were given was to promote bilateral trade between the two countries, but also to soften the image of Pakistan. And so it's been a great challenge. For the last it's been going for the last almost 20 years now. 20 years in May. Where PBBC is different is from other trade bodies. People need to understand this, and this is where things can begin to happen. PBBC, where there is a compelling need, PBBC tries and creates an entity, a business, and what it does is basically populate the board, pull the right people together, and once the project takes off, we then back off and let the team get on with it. But before that, there is a lot of R&D to be done. I'll give you an example. We were asked by the High Commission on an occasion where we were asked to improve the enhance the food and drink sector's business. So we said fine. So we sat down, and literally it took us about 6 months to almost 8 months to actually doing a bit of R&D. This is something that PBBC took on board, and we had a team of people who we actually allocated to provide that R&D. And alhamdulillah, in November 3rd of November 2020, we had Maran Spices that obviously had increased their export to UK, but also we had introduced a number of other food sector companies. And similarly, we have been working within the tech sector, and Bilal is very much aware of our activities, and so is Qureshi Saab. we've, the organization we're working for is basically, it's called the ABP, which is the Advanced Business Park, which is basically based in the Docklands. And the reason for that business hub, why that business hub is been established, back in 2013, Boris Johnson, who was the mayor at the time, and then Chancellor George Osborne was obviously both Boris Johnson and Chancellor George Osborne had met the Chinese developers, and the whole regeneration of the Docklands in the Royal Albert Dock was actually initiated back then, 2013. The idea was to actually bring in lots of businesses together so that we could actually connect and work towards a more ecosystem. And so you have that business hub sits directly in parallel to the London City Airport. Now, what the government had announced that London City Airport is going to be expanded. So London City Airport has been given £500 million grant to actually expand the airport, and that airport is actually, it bodes well because you've got the business hub right in parallel to the London City Airport, and it's literally a few stones away to actually getting a planned land at the airport. You come out and you've got the business centre right directly opposite. 2 stops, you've got the London XL, and you've got numerous hospitality sectors, working within that area. Now, my proposal, which I actually towards the tech sector, was that we thought that because there will be Indonesian Business Council being established within the ABP, Advanced Business Park, and then you have the Malaysian, the Asian Business Chambers of Commerce, and then you have the China Business Council. So all the Southeast and South Asian continent, Southeast and South Asian business chambers will be housed in that region, and gradually it's a huge investment the Chinese put forward. It's 1.8 billion, if I remember correctly, and it's just seeing and believing. If you go and have a look at this ABP, now I'm very much in friends with the chief executives of the ABP, but also with the chief executive of the London City Airport. Now, why do I mention the London City Airport? Is because London City Airport could become very crucial for the airline industries, especially for the BIA. And this is something that I have been discussing with the Chief Executive, Robert Sinclair, that if the airport is extended to an extent where flights would be taken from not just the European continent, but the flights will actually be going up to South Asia and more Middle Eastern countries. So you've got the tech hub, you've got the business hub, you've got the logistics, the transportation. It's all combined into one particular area. And this is where I believe that working with Bilal and his team would be very crucial to set up our first Pakistan tech hub in the London Docklands. And I'll have you know that our neighbouring country, India, has already taken an interest in creating a hub. So my challenge is that, it's all very good that, I can propose, but until and unless there is a commitment, communication, and the coordination, and the big fat F, which is the follow-up, we can't do any much. It's a collective effort. Believe me, it's a collective effort. One cannot do this on your own. PwC doesn't have the capacity. It's a beggar's belief that we've got the China Britain Business Council who gets the funding of 3.5 million from the DIT. I don't know if they're still getting it. The last time what I heard was they were getting 3.5 million funding. 1.5 million for the UK India Business Council and Pakistan Britain Business Council, which was created by both the governments, 0. So we are member-based, and I have an honorary position, and my bread and butter comes from my education, because I'm an educationist. So this is where things are happening, but we need to work together, and I'm quite happy that obviously this tech forum is taking place. And answer to Shahid's question earlier, that why is it all Asian audience here? This is what I've been advocating throughout my tenure within my capacity. Is that you need the mainstream to be told or to be encouraged to see Pakistan as a priority market, and not just see Pakistan as bombs exploding all over the place, because that is a wrong perception that people have endured from the media and from the international media. We should not forget how much talent there is in Pakistan, and the only way we could actually bring that to surface is through coordinated effort.
Excellent, thank you.
You wish you never took this job, didn't you?
It's handed over to me. So I'll address this next question to mainstream, because I think Chris has a big responsibility to go tell this story to mainstream. Seems like that's the ask. I had a very interesting observation as I landed in Heathrow. There was a big board, multiples of them, on global talent visa. Which is interesting because if you think about it, by the year 2025, there will be about 100 million jobs globally in the tech sector unfilled. Now, in a collective way, yes, academia has a responsibility, but so do other players as well. That includes a lot of the global linkages types as well. Would you care to comment on how the countries could collaborate beyond just throwing some stuff at universities to not only do it in both countries, but how can we help you with this shortage across the board with the 130 million millennials that we have in Pakistan?
I'm not sure I want to care to make a comment about the UK visa system, but
I don't mean it that way. I don't want them over. I'm just saying, how can we enable the UK's economy, the tech economy, from $500 billion to beyond?
I think it's, we deal a lot with the tech community, and here in London particularly, but it's not just in London, it's actually all over the UK and all over Pakistan as well, for that matter. It's just incredibly dynamic, isn't it? You've got big tech, small tech, fintech, trade tech, insure tech, law tech. I mean, it's just exploding in all directions. And the UK, I think, has done a great job of taking the tech community really to a completely different level as the hub for tech in Europe. And that's happened in quite a short space of time. And obviously, Pakistan has the same sort of cluster. And I know from experience within the trade community, one thing we've got to get a bit better at is getting the connectivity between the clusters. That's getting the glue, as I call it, because when you unlock that relationship, it's incredible what you can actually achieve, and that's just as relevant across borders as it is within borders, I think. It's not just about academia, it's about industry, ultimately, with academia supporting, government supporting, and all the other stakeholders supporting as well. And when it works, it's terrific. But I go back to the same point, it's about unlocking that dynamism within the relationship. I'm a great Commonwealth fan. I think there is a depth of relationship between the UK and Pakistan, just like it is there with UK and Singapore and other countries, that's really untapped. We have this enormous advantage. We've got an 18% advantage before we've even started the conversation. And then in the modern kind of community, when we're talking about technologies, it's almost limitless, really. The talent is extraordinary. So it's about sitting down and having that conversation, I think, through whatever the vehicles and forums are. I don't see pushback at all. And to credit to certainly to the UK government, they really are excelling in this area. I think it's just a complete open door. It's very rare that you get such a consensus across industry, across academia, across the wider trade stakeholders, across Parliament and government, all saying, let's do this. I haven't seen that, too many times.
Of course.
There's always an issue somewhere.
And ask you, and we'll close this up with this as well. I think you're in the thick of it because, with Folio's portfolio of developers and such in Pakistan and obviously in Silicon Valley and others as well, how do you see this talent bulge? And then how can we do more with low-hanging fruits of technology? And how can we make that better for us?
I think Iqbal was saying earlier on, so we've got a skill shortage. Since Brexit, we just can't get the high-skilled workers. So I've been granted 90 visas. Now, I offered to guys in Pakistan, if they want to come over to UK, 30 years, 34 years old, and project managers, £90,000, and they turned around and said, by the time you pay all the taxes and buy the house, he said they get a better quality of life in Pakistan than they come over here. So I have huge problems of actually getting people to come over here. So what that actually does give you advantage is the fact that if you train the people there, certainly with COVID, the way we work now, I think people now accept it overseas. We're in a global village, and I think people accept wherever the work is there now, and people expect, we're having people working from home all the time. I've got 3 staff I haven't seen for 2 years, right? They've been since March 2020. So I think people have accepted that you can work from home. I think the sort of global villages, it is a global village, and I think what we should be really looking at is how do we train and how we build a relationship and capacity for our own people in Pakistan that can deliver services from Pakistan to the UK without actually having to come over.
Absolutely. I think it's a massive opportunity across the board. And with that, we're here. I'm around as well to answer any questions, whether it's SCCA or incentives or where we're headed as a nation in tech. So thank you. You have a question?
It's really unforgivable that I should be speaking yet again, but I just wanted to make one kind of remark about what Mr. Shahid Azim said is about preaching to the converted, and I know what you mean, but you know what? It's up to everybody here, everyone, to get out there to a wider audience. I know that I have stood in front of the Council of CBI Scotland, about 30 people in the room, giving a presentation on why they should be engaging with Pakistan and doing business with Pakistan. So get involved in all of these organizations like the CBI, Confederation of British Industry, that actually helps to inform government on policy and all of that. So all the business people here, each and every one has that responsibility. It's up to all of us. Get out to that wider audience, the unconverted, and convert them.
Thank you. And I know, Chris, you had a comment as well.
Yeah, just a quick one. I completely agree with that. I think it's about being proactive, isn't it? One message that we've been giving out for some time is this is not the time to be sitting still, staying quiet. It's the time actually to be speaking up. And that's just as relevant in the macro geopolitical arena as it is actually at the local and national arena. I think that's a really important point to make. And I think with the UK, we have to show a little bit of patience. The UK is quite obviously being completely absorbed by just extracting itself from Europe. There's still a bumpy road ahead for quite a long time. But it's pretty clear, working closely with government, that the heads are clearing, the fog is starting to dissipate, and that's creating space for thinking about other fresh ideas and what else could we do. It's very obvious. There's been a real turning point in the last sort of 6 months, and suddenly the questions are coming in from government: what can we do? Where are the opportunities? Whereas that wasn't the case. So I think we have to show a degree of patience with it, sit with it a bit, and just keep very, very focused. There's nothing worse than going into governments with a shopping list of 50,000 asks. It just becomes a noise. It's got to be 3 asks. What are the 3 things that we're going to do that are going to make a difference tomorrow? And let's go with that. And then we can deal with the other 50,000 or 49,000, whatever.
One thing I say, this is an opportunity for this year. This is 75th anniversary of Pakistan and UK relationship. It's also the Queen's 70th Jubilee celebration. So wouldn't it be a great opportunity to do something this year as a 75th anniversary together to leave some kind of a legacy, even something to do with your policies or whatever it is, something that's going to make a huge difference and also change the soft image of Pakistan. So the Queen's theme is the green canopy, planting 1 million trees. Perhaps we should plant 75,000 trees as a Pakistani community across the country, and that's some way of going. There's a little number there that we should be doing. Looking at something that you want to change the image of Pakistan, Go and plant 75,000 trees. You get the best covering ever.
Right, on that note, happy 75.